They thought I saved them. But the moment I opened that door, I was already counting 9 months from tonight, if luck held. 9 months until I'd have what I needed and they'd never see me again. I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for a way to stop being broken. The calendar hidden in my bathroom drawer had one date circled in red, 3 days from now. My last viable heat cycle before my body gave up completely. Before defective became permanent. I'd marked it 6 months ago when the doctor delivered his verdict with clinical detachment. Your hormone levels are declining faster than we anticipated, Hainel. Another year, maybe 2, and conception will be impossible. He'd said it like he was discussing the weather. Like he wasn't destroying the only future I'd allowed myself to imagine. I'd walked out of that clinic and made a plan. Not for love, I'd learned that lesson already. The alpha who'd promised forever had left the moment I told him I was pregnant 2 years ago. Said he didn't sign up for that. I'd lost the baby 8 weeks later, lost everything. The doctors said the stress had caused it, that my body had failed, that I'd probably never carry to term. Defective. The word had burrowed under my skin and made a home there. But I'd done my research. Omega biology was failing, yes, but it hadn't failed yet. One more cycle, one chance. I just needed an alpha, preferably one who wouldn't ask questions or expect anything beyond a few days. I'd been preparing for months, stocked the cabin with supplies, chosen the most isolated location I could afford in the Oregon woods, waited. I hadn't expected them to come to me. The knock rattled through the cabin like thunder, sharp and desperate. I froze, hand hovering over the stove where I'd been heating soup I had no appetite for. It was past 9, full dark outside, and I was 20 miles from the nearest town. Nobody knocked on my door. I approached slowly, every instinct screaming caution. Checked the window first. 2 men stood on my porch, both soaked through from the rain that had been falling since sunset, both bleeding, both identical, twin alphas. My heart stopped, then kicked into a rhythm that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with probability. Twins shared stronger bonds than regular siblings. Their biology was more potent, their genetics more viable. 2 alphas meant double the chance of conception. I unlocked the door. The first one looked up, and I saw suspicion carved into every line of his face despite the blood running down his temple. Dark eyes that assessed me like a threat. This one wouldn't be easy. The second one stood slightly behind, one hand pressed to his brother's shoulder, gentler somehow, even bleeding. When he met my gaze, I saw exhaustion and something close to apology. "Please," the gentle one said, voice rough. "We don't mean to intrude. We just need shelter until the storm passes." The suspicious one cut him off. "Ron." A warning in the name. So the gentle one was Rayon. I filed that away. "You're hurt," I said, making my voice soft, concerned, everything I'd practiced in the mirror. "Come inside." The suspicious one, presumably Do-hyun, since twins often had complementary names, didn't move. "We don't need charity, just a dry place to wait out the weather." "You're bleeding on my porch," I pointed out, "and the forecast says this storm is going to last days, not hours. Come in before you collapse." I stepped back, making the invitation clear, making myself look smaller, less threatening. Omegas were good at that. Raon moved first, practically dragging his brother over the threshold. I caught their scent as they passed pine and smoke and something sharper, almost electric. Alpha pheromones, strong and complementary. My body responded involuntarily, a flutter low in my stomach that I forced myself to ignore. Not yet. Too soon. I closed the door behind them and heard the lock mechanism click. It wasn't broken, that would come later, but they didn't need to know that yet. "Sit," I gestured to the couch. "Let me get the first aid kit." Do-hyun was already scanning the cabin, cataloging exits and potential weapons. I watched him from the corner of my eye as I retrieved supplies. This one had been hurt before. This one didn't trust easily. Good. It would make breaking through his walls that much more satisfying. "What happened?" I asked, kneeling between them with antiseptic and gauze. "Rival pack," Raon answered when his brother stayed silent. "We were on neutral territory. They didn't care. I dabbed at the cut on Ryon's forehead, gentle and careful. He winced but didn't pull away. Do-hyun watched my hands like he expected them to become weapons. "You're twin alphas," I said. Not a question. "Yes." Do-hyun's voice was flat. "Problem?" "No." I met his gaze directly. "Just unusual. Beautiful, actually." Something flickered in his expression, surprise, maybe, or suspicion of the compliment. I turned to examine his injuries before he could analyze it too deeply. The gash on his shoulder was deeper than Raun's wounds. I pressed gauze against it and felt him tense. His hand came up instinctively, wrapping around my wrist. Not rough, but firm. "I can do it myself. You can't reach it properly." I didn't pull away. "Let me help." Our eyes locked. His were searching for something, ulterior motives, maybe, or signs of the trap he sensed but couldn't identify. He'd find it eventually. But not yet. I smiled softly, the expression I'd perfected after months of practice. Gentle. Trustworthy. Everything I wasn't. "I promise," I said. "I just want to help." He let go of my wrist slowly. I finished bandaging his shoulder, then Raun's arm where claws had raked skin. Both of them were watching me now with different versions of the same expression, Do-hyun wary, Raun curious. Outside, thunder cracked loud enough to shake the windows. The storm was intensifying. "Perfect. You should stay the night," I offered. "It's not safe out there." "We'll leave at first light," Do-hyun said immediately. I nodded like that was reasonable, like I wasn't already planning how to make sure they couldn't. 3 days until my heat. 3 days to make them comfortable, lower their guards, become someone they'd want to protect. Then nature would do the rest. I stood, collecting bloody gauze. "There's soup on the stove if you're hungry. I'll get blankets." As I walked away, I felt both their gazes following me, assessing, wondering. I smiled where they couldn't see. They'd come to me injured and desperate, seeking shelter from a storm. They had no idea I was the storm, and by the time they figured it out, it would be far too late. I reached for the first aid kit, fingers steady despite the calculation running through my mind. The twins were watching me. I felt their attention like pressure against my spine. Do-hyun's sharp and suspicious, Rayon's gentler but equally focused. Neither trusted this yet. Good. Suspicion meant every kindness would register, every gesture would be weighed. I turned back with fresh gauze, kneeling between them again, close enough that our scents mingled their alpha pheromones mixing with my carefully suppressed omega presence. I kept my biology locked down tight. They couldn't know about the heat coming. Not yet. "This might sting," I warned Rayon, applying antiseptic to the claw marks on his forearm. He hissed softly but held still. His eyes were kind, I noticed, warm brown with gold flecks catching lamplight, the type that wanted to see good in people. I could work with that. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Most people wouldn't open their door to strangers." "Most people aren't alone in the woods during a storm," I replied. "Besides, you needed help." Do-hyun made a sound between agreement and skepticism. When I glanced up, he was studying the cabin layout again, counting exits, measuring distances. "You live here alone?" he asked. "Yes." "Why?" Blunt, almost rude. But I heard the real question. "What are you running from?" "I like the quiet," I said simply. The city was too loud. Something flickered in his expression, recognition, maybe. I finished with Rayon's arm and moved to check Do-hyun's shoulder. The bandage was already soaked through. "You need stitches." "I'm fine." "You're bleeding through the gauze." I met his gaze directly. "Let me help or it'll get infected." We stared at each other. His jaw clenched, pride warring with pain. Finally, Rayon touched his brother's arm. "Do-hyun, let him." Small surrender, but significant. Do-hyun's shoulders dropped and he nodded once. I gathered my sewing kit and returned to find him shirtless. The wound was jagged across his shoulder, needing at least 6 stitches. But what made my breath catch were the scars. Old marks crisscrossed his ribs and chest, claws, bites, blades. Raun had similar marks, though fewer, These two had survived things that should have killed them. I threaded the needle without commenting. Some wounds didn't need words. This will hurt, I said. I know. I pressed needle through skin, felt him tense. He didn't make a sound, just breathed through it, controlled and measured. Each stitch pulled flesh together. Outside, rain intensified. Wind howled against windows hard enough to rattle glass, just like the forecast promised, just like I'd planned. I tied off the final stitch. Done. Do-hyun tested his shoulder. You're good at that. Practice. I brought them soup and bread, watched them eat with single-minded focus. They'd gone too long without food. Another detail filed away. They'd been running from more than just tonight's attack. How long were you out there? I asked. Brown swallowed. 3 days. We've been avoiding packed territories. Because you're twins. Both stopped eating. How did you know? Do-hyun's voice went cold. Your sense, I said carefully. They're complementary, matching but opposite. It's rare. It's cursed, Do-hyun corrected flatly. Twin alphas aren't natural. Packs don't want us. The bitterness was old, worn smooth by repetition. I don't think you're cursed, I said quietly. Rayon looked up, something fragile and hopeful in his expression. No, I think people fear what they don't understand. A pretty lie. A kind one. The type that made people want to believe you. Thunder cracked overhead. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. Darkness swallowed the cabin except for dying embers in the wood stove. Power's out, I said. Both alphas stood instantly, alert. I moved to the window, peering into the storm. Rain sheeted sideways, visibility gone, trees bent at dangerous angles. This is going to last days, I said. The roads will flood by morning. We'll leave anyway, Do-hyun insisted. I turned, let concern show. You'll die out there. The temperature's dropping and you're injured. Please, stay until it's safe. Ryan was nodding, but Do-hyun's expression remained skeptical. I crossed to check the door, or that's what it looked like. My fingers found the mechanism I'd loosened earlier and pushed the pin into place. The lock engaged with a soft click. I tested the handle. It didn't turn. What? I pulled harder, confusion crossing my face. It's stuck. Do-hyun was beside me in 3 strides. He tried the handle himself, putting weight into it. The lock held. It does this in storms. I lied smoothly. The wood swells, should release by morning. His eyes narrowed. Convenient. It's a 100-year-old cabin, I shot back, letting irritation show. Nothing about it is convenient, but we're stuck until weather clears. He stared like he could see through skin to truth beneath. I held his gaze, expression open. Finally, he stepped back. Fine, but we sleep in shifts. I'm not going to hurt you. I don't take chances. Fair. I'd expected paranoia. I gathered blankets, made them comfortable on the couch while claiming the bedroom. They didn't argue, probably relieved for distance. I closed the bedroom door and leaned against it, heart racing. 3 days. I had 3 days to build trust before my heat hit. I crossed to the bathroom cabinet where I kept suppressants, half empty. I'd been rationing, letting my system prepare for the heat I needed to hit hard and fast. I swallowed tonight's reduced dose, tasting bitterness coat my throat. 2 more days of suppressants. Then I'd stop completely. Then nature would make them want me enough to stay. I climbed into bed, listening to storm rage and quiet murmurs from the main room. Too soft for words, but I caught the cadence, Do-hyun's sharp suspicion countered by Raun's gentler logic. Eventually, silence fell. I closed my eyes and imagined, 9 months from now, holding a baby, a child I'd created and kept, proof I wasn't broken beyond repair. That's all I wanted. Love was for people who hadn't learned better. I'd tried that already. It had left me bleeding and empty. This time, I'd take what I needed and nothing more. This time, I wouldn't be the one left behind. But then something shifted. A flutter low in my stomach that had nothing to do with planning. My skin felt too warm suddenly, too sensitive against sheets. No, not yet. I had 2 more days. I sat up, pulse quickening. Checked my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My pupils were slightly dilated, lips flushed darker than normal. The suppressants were failing faster than expected. My heat was coming early. Outside, lightning split the sky. Inside, my carefully constructed timeline just collapsed. I had hours, maybe a day at most, before my body betrayed every plan I'd made. Before the twins would smell exactly what I was. I pressed my back against the bathroom door, trying to control my breathing as heat crawled under my skin like something alive. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. I had 2 more days to build trust before my body forced their hands. But my reflection told a different story. Flushed cheeks, dilated pupils, the first sheen of sweat on my throat despite the cold cabin air. My heat was here, early, uncontrolled. And 2 alpha strangers were sleeping 20 feet away. I splashed cold water on my face, hands trembling. I could still salvage this. Lock myself in the bedroom, ride it out alone. It would be agony without an alpha, but I'd survive. Except I needed them. Needed this chance, my last chance. The heat was building faster than it should, spreading through my blood like wildfire. My suppressants had failed completely. Months of careful rationing had backfired. My body was compensating, hitting me twice as hard. A soft knock on the bedroom door made me freeze. "Hanel?" Rayon's voice, quiet and concerned. "Are you okay?" I couldn't answer. My scent was changing, sweetening. In minutes they'd smell exactly what was happening. "I'm fine," I managed, voice rougher than intended. "Just give me a minute." Silence. Then Do-hyun's voice, sharper. "Open the door." "No. Something's wrong. We can smell." He stopped abruptly. They knew. I heard urgent whispers, then footsteps retreating rapidly. The main door rattled the lock I'd sabotaged, holding firm. Do-hyun swore, loud and vicious. "It's still stuck," Round said, voice tight. "Like hell it is. He locked us in. He planned this." My heart stuttered. Too smart. Do-hyun was too smart. "We don't know that." "Wake up, Round." An Omega alone in the woods, conveniently taking in 2 alphas right before his heat? This is a setup. I should stay hidden. Let them think what they wanted. But something in Do-hyun's voice, the betrayal underneath the anger, made me open the door. They both turned. I watched realization hit as my scent rolled over them. Rayon's eyes went dark, pupils blown wide. Do-hyun's entire body went rigid. Every muscle locked in forced control. "Get back in your room," Do-hyun growled. "Now." "I didn't plan this," I said. Not entirely a lie. My heat wasn't supposed to start yet. "Convenient timing." His voice was blade sharp. "Right after you trap us here. The lock. Save it." He turned away deliberately, fists clenched. "Rayon, kitchen, now." But Raon hadn't moved. He was staring at me with something between concern and hunger, fighting a battle across his features. "He's in pain," Rayon said quietly. "Not our problem." Do-hyun. "We're not doing this." Do-hyun spun back, and I saw fear underneath the anger. This is exactly what she did. Convenient situation, perfect timing, and we fell for it. She, the Omega who'd used them before. "I'm not her," I said, hating how my voice shook. "No. You're just an Omega in heat who locked 2 alphas in a cabin." Do-hyun's laugh was bitter. At least she was honest about wanting to use us. The accusation hit harder than it should, maybe because it was true. Another wave of heat rolled through me. My knees buckled. I caught myself on the doorframe, gasping. Both alphas moved instinctively, then stopped, fighting biology with pure will. "Go to your room," Do-hyun ordered. "Lock the door. Don't come out." "I need..." The words caught. "Water," Raon finished gently. "You need water." He moved to the kitchen, hands shaking as he filled a glass. When he approached, I saw the strain in every line of his body. "Here." He held it out, careful not to touch me. I reached for it. Our fingers brushed. The contact sent electricity straight through me. The glass slipped, shattered on the floor between us. "Sorry," I whispered. "Don't apologize." Round's voice had gone rough. "Just go, please. Before I—" He cut himself off, stepping back fast. I retreated to the bedroom, shut the door, pressed my ear against wood and listened. "We need to break that door down," Do-hyun was saying. "Get out of here. In this storm, we'd die. Better than doing something we can't take back." I heard movement, then metal scraping against wood. "What are you doing?" Round asked. "Making sure I keep my promise to myself." Curiosity won. I cracked the door open. Do-hyun had found rope from my supply closet and was tying himself to the radiator beneath the window, each knot tight enough to bruise. "Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't come near me." He pulled the final knot tight with his teeth. "I won't touch you, even if you beg." The words should have made me angry. Instead, they broke something open inside my chest. He was protecting me from what he thought I wanted. From being used the way someone had used him before. Round sat across the room, head in his hands, fighting his own battle. "I just wanted a child," I heard myself say. Truth slipping through heat-addled defenses. "That's all." Do-hyun's laugh was hollow. "That's exactly what she said, right up until she disappeared." Heat was making it hard to think, but shame cut through clear and sharp. I sank to the floor, back against the doorframe. Close enough to their sense, but far enough not to threaten. "I lost a baby," I said quietly. 2 years ago. The alpha left when I told him I was pregnant. I miscarried 8 weeks later." Silence. "Doctors said I'm defective, that I'm running out of time." My voice cracked. "This heat is my last viable one." "So you planned to use us?" Do-hyun's voice had lost some edge. "Yes. Why lie now?" "I planned to seduce you, get pregnant, and disappear." Rayon's head came up. "That's horrible, I know. Heat was making me honest, but I didn't know you. You were going to be convenient strangers." "And now?" Do-hyun asked. "Now you're real." "Now I don't know," I whispered. Another wave hit, stronger this time. I bit my lip hard enough to taste copper, trying to stay quiet, failing. I heard rope straining, Do-hyun cursing, Round's sharp breath. "We can't," Round said. "Do-hyun, he's suffering. It's manipulation." "I know what he does," Rayon's voice cracked. "But look at him." Silence. Then Do-hyun, quieter. "If we do this, it's not because of heat, you understand? If we touch you, it's a choice." I lifted my head, met his gaze, saw fear and want and something that might have been hope. "I understand. When this is over, we don't disappear. If we give you this, you don't get to discard us." The rope was fraying, his alpha strength fighting containment. "Okay," I breathed. "Say it. Say you won't leave." I should lie, should promise anything. But shame and heat and something dangerously close to longing made me honest. "I won't leave." The rope snapped. The rope hit the floor with a sound that seemed too loud in the sudden silence. Do-hyun stood there, chest heaving, rope burns raw on his wrists. His eyes were completely dark now, pupils swallowing the brown until only a thin ring remained. Every line of his body screamed tension muscles coiled tight, fighting the alpha instinct to close the distance between us. Raon was already moving, not toward me, but to his brother, hands on Do-hyun's shoulders like an anchor. "Think," Raon said quietly. "We don't have to do this." "I know." Do-hyun's voice was rough, scraped raw. "But staying in the same room with him like this, Raon, I can't." "Then we leave. Storm or not." But neither of them moved toward the door. Neither of them looked away from me. I should retreat. Lock myself in the bedroom and let them make the choice without my scent clouding their judgment. That would be the decent thing to do. Instead, another wave of heat crashed through me. I gasped, doubling over as cramps twisted through my abdomen. My body was punishing me for being alone, for denying it what it needed. Both alphas were beside me before I could blink. Raon caught me as my knees gave out, lowering me carefully to the floor. Do-hyun knelt in front of me, hands hovering like he wanted to touch but didn't dare. We need to get him to bed, Rayon said. Bad idea. Worse idea is leaving him on the floor. Do-hyun's jaw clenched. Then he slid one arm under my knees, the other around my back, and lifted me like I weighed nothing. The contact sent fire racing through my veins, his scent wrapping around me, pine and smoke and something uniquely him. I made a sound I didn't recognize, needy and broken. Don't, Do-hyun growled. But I didn't know if he was talking to me or himself. He carried me to the bedroom, Rayon following close behind. They laid me on the bed with careful precision, then both immediately stepped back, putting distance between us that felt like miles. We'll get water, Rayon said. Cold cloths, that helps, right? I nodded, not trusting my voice. They disappeared into the bathroom. I heard water running, quiet conversation I couldn't make out. My skin felt too tight, every nerve ending screaming. The sheets beneath me were too rough, the air too cold. Everything wrong except the fading scent of the two alphas who'd just touched me. They returned with supplies. Rayon pressed a cold cloth to my forehead while Do-hyun held water to my lips. Clinical, careful, like they were administering first aid instead of fighting the most basic biological drive in existence. Better? Rayon asked softly. No. Honesty seemed safest right now, but thank you for trying. Do-hyun set the glass on the nightstand with deliberate control. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I know. How long do your heats usually last? 2 days. Sometimes 3. I closed my eyes against another cramp. But without an alpha, it's going to be bad. Silence, heavy and thick. We can't, Do-hyun said finally. You understand that, right? Even wanting to help, we can't. I'm not asking you to. The words came out sharper than intended. I told you what I planned. I was honest. But I'm not going to beg. Good. But something in his expression looked almost disappointed. Rayon sat on the edge of the bed, close but not touching. Tell us about the baby, the one you lost. The question surprised me enough that I answered truthfully. His name was going to be Jay. I never found out if it was a boy, but I knew. Somehow, I knew. I stared at the ceiling, seeing the past instead of wooden beams. I was 3 months along when the alpha left. Lost Jay at 15 weeks. I'm sorry, Rayon said quietly. The doctors said the stress contributed, that my body wasn't strong enough to hold on. I laughed, bitter and broken. Defective, they said, like I was a broken appliance they couldn't fix. Do-hyun's hands curled into fists. You're not defective. Then what am I? Human. You're human and you went through something terrible and you're trying to survive it the only way you know how. He met my gaze directly. Even if that way is morally questionable, despite everything, I almost smiled. That's generous. I'm not feeling generous. I'm feeling trapped and manipulated and so far past rational thought I can barely see straight. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. But I also understand desperation, what it makes you do. Rayon's hand drifted to mine, not holding it, just resting nearby, a small comfort that shouldn't have mattered but did. We were 16 when our pack cast us out, he said. Said twin alphas were unnatural, that our bond was too strong, too codependent, we'd never integrate properly into pack hierarchy. So they just left you? Abandoned us at the edge of neutral territory. Do-hyun's voice had gone flat. No resources, no training, nothing but each other. We survived, but it taught us not to trust easily. Then 3 years ago we met someone. Raon's expression darkened. An Omega who seemed kind, who said she didn't care about pack politics or what others thought. She stayed with us for 2 months. Let me guess, I said quietly. She left, with everything we had. Money we'd saved, the documents we needed to establish ourselves legally, our dignity. Do-hyun's laugh was hollow. Left a note saying thanks for the experience. The parallel was obvious, painfully so. I'm not her, I said. You're exactly like her. You just had the decency to admit it up front. That hurt more than it should have. Maybe because he was right. Another wave hit, stronger than before. I curled into myself, trying to breathe through it. The heat was building, reaching the point where pain overwhelmed everything else. Rayon's hand tightened on mine. Hanul. I'm fine, I gasped, lying. You're not fine. Do-hyun was closer now, drawn by distress pheromones I couldn't control. This is dangerous. Heat without an alpha can cause permanent damage. I know, I've done it before. You shouldn't have to do it again. I looked up at him through sweat-dampened hair. What are you saying? He exchanged a long look with Rayon, some silent conversation passing between them that I couldn't interpret. We're saying, Raon began carefully, that maybe there's a middle ground here. What kind of middle ground? We help you through the heat, Do-hyun said. But on our terms. Not because you manipulated us into it, but because it's the right thing to do. My heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with heat. And after, we figure it out. If you get pregnant, he paused, jaw tight. If you get pregnant, we're involved. Not as strangers you used, but as actual parents. You want to co-parent with someone who trapped you? We want to not abandon a child the way we were abandoned, Rayon said quietly. Even if its other parent is morally complicated. I should have been offended. Instead, I felt something dangerously close to relief. So we're doing this, I said. We're doing this, Do-hyun confirmed. But Hanul, he leaned close enough that I could feel his breath against my ear. If we start, I'm not stopping halfway. You understand? This isn't going to be gentle or easy. We've been holding back for hours, and when that breaks... Another cramp cut off whatever I might have said. I bit my lip hard enough to taste blood. Rayon smoothed hair from my forehead, touched gentle despite the hunger in his eyes. Let us help, please. I nodded. What else could I do? Do-hyun's hand wrapped around my throat, not cruelly, but possessively. His thumb traced my racing pulse. Last chance, he growled. Tell us to stop. I opened my mouth. And... lied. I don't want you to stop. Raon's lips crashed into mine with a gentleness that contradicted the hunger in his eyes. His hands cupped my face like I was something precious, something that might shatter if he wasn't careful. The kiss deepened slowly, his tongue sliding against mine with deliberate patience. He tasted like rain and desperation and something sweeter I couldn't name. When he pulled back, his pupils were blown so wide the brown had nearly disappeared. Tell me what you need. Everything. Nothing. I didn't know anymore. Touch me, I whispered. He did. Hands sliding down my throat, across my collarbone, mapping skin with focused attention. Each touch sent heat spiraling deeper, coiling low in my belly. When his fingers found my nipples, circling and teasing, I gasped into his mouth. Do-hyun watched from beside the bed, jaw tight with restraint. You're being too gentle. He needs gentle right now. He needs to stop thinking. Do-hyun moved closer, hand wrapping around my throat, not squeezing, just holding. Possessive. Don't you? I nodded, unable to form words. Rayon's mouth moved down my body, kissing, licking, teeth grazing sensitive skin. When he reached my chest, he took his time, tongue circling one nipple while his fingers worked the other. The dual sensation had me arching off the bed, heat building to unbearable levels. Please, I heard myself beg. Please what? Do-hyun's thumb traced my jaw. Use your words. I need. The sentence dissolved into a moan as Raon's mouth moved lower, kissing down my stomach. He needs to stop being in control, Do-hyun said. Don't you, Hanul? You're so used to planning everything, manipulating every angle. Right now you just want someone else to make the decisions. He was right. God help me, he was right. Rayon hooked his fingers in my waistband, looking up at me for permission. I lifted my hips in answer. He pulled my pants down slowly, revealing skin inch by inch. When I was finally bare before them, his breath caught. Beautiful, he murmured, hands stroking up my thighs. The praise sent unexpected warmth through my chest. No one had called me beautiful since. Don't think about him. Don't think about before. But Raon's mouth was moving higher, kissing the inside of my thigh, and thought became difficult. When his lips finally reached where I needed him most, I cried out. His tongue was skilled and patient, taking me apart with deliberate precision. Do-hyun's hand tightened on my throat, just enough pressure to make breathing interesting. Look at me. I forced my eyes open, met his intense gaze. You're ours tonight, he said. Say it. Round did something with his tongue that made my back arch. I'm yours. Good. Do-hyun leaned down, captured my mouth in a kiss that was nothing like Rayeon's gentleness. This was claiming, demanding, raw. His free hand found my chest, pinching and rolling my nipple hard enough to border on pain. The combination of Raon's skilled mouth and Do-hyun's rough handling pushed me higher, faster. Pleasure built like a wave, cresting toward something inevitable. Then Rayeon slid 2 fingers inside me, curling them just right, and I shattered. The orgasm hit hard, whiting out everything except sensation. I came on Rayeon's tongue while Do-hyun swallowed my cries, both of them working me through it until I was trembling and oversensitive. But the heat wasn't satisfied. If anything, that first release only made it worse. That's when the memory hit. Sudden and vicious, pulling me out of the present into 2 years ago. Different hands, different promises. An alpha who'd touched me with this same reverence before everything fell apart. I'd been 3 months pregnant when he left. 3 months of believing in forever, of imagining our child, of feeling finally whole. Then one morning I'd woken to find him gone. Just a note, I can't do this. 8 weeks later, I'd lost Jay. Lost everything. The doctors had looked at me with pity I couldn't stand. The stress likely contributed. Your body wasn't able to sustain the pregnancy. You may have difficulty conceiving in the future. The damage is significant. Defective, broken, useless. Tears were streaming down my face before I realized I was crying. Raon pulled back immediately, concern flooding his features. Did I hurt you? I shook my head, unable to speak past the sob building in my throat. Do-hyun's hand gentled on my neck, wiping tears with his thumb. What's wrong? I'm sorry, I managed. I remembered. Understanding dawned in Raon's eyes. The baby. I nodded, grief pouring through cracks the pleasure had opened. His name was Jay. I was going to name him Jay. They didn't push for more. Raon gathered me against his chest while Do-hyun's arms came around us both. They held me while I broke, offering comfort they had no obligation to give. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be sorry for being honest. Do-hyun's hand found mine. That doesn't make what I planned right. No, but it makes you human. Raon kissed my forehead. We've all done desperate things to survive. Something in my chest cracked wider. I wanted to believe them, wanted to believe I deserved more than stolen biology and careful manipulation. What do we do now? I asked. Do-hyun met my gaze. We finish what we started, but as a choice, not an obligation. And after, we figure it out. Raon's smile was small but genuine. If there's a baby, we're there. Not as strangers you used, but as parents. The promise should have felt like a trap. Instead, it felt like the first solid ground I'd stood on in years. Okay, I breathed. The heat rose again, demanding and insistent. This time when they touched me, I let myself feel it fully. Let myself be present instead of 3 steps ahead. Raon positioned himself between my legs, the head of his cock pressing against me. Ready? I pulled him down into a kiss instead of answering. He entered me slowly, giving my body time to adjust to the stretch. The fullness was intense, borderline overwhelming. When he was seated completely inside me, we both gasped. Move, I pleaded. He did. Slow at first, building a rhythm that had us both shaking. Do-hyun's hands never left me, stroking and claiming simultaneously. When Raon's thrusts grew harder, faster, I felt pleasure building again. This time when I came, it felt like more than release. It felt dangerously like belonging. I woke to Do-hyun's mouth on my throat and Raon's hand between my thighs. Sleep had barely lasted an hour before the heat dragged me back under, demanding more. My body was insatiable, biology overriding every other need. But this time, instead of panic or calculation, I just surrendered to it. "There you are," Do-hyun murmured against my skin. "We could feel you waking up." Rayon's fingers circled slowly, teasingly, not quite giving me what I needed. "Your scent changed, got sweeter." I was already wet, already ready. The heat had kept my body in a constant state of arousal even while unconscious. When Rayon finally slid 2 fingers inside me, I arched into the touch with a desperate sound. "Still so responsive," he said, admiration in his voice. "Even after everything." Everything had been hours of them taking me apart piece by piece. My body was sore in the best way, marked with their touches, claimed in ways I'd never expected to want. Do-hyun's teeth grazed my throat where a mating mark would go, not biting down, just reminding me of the possibility. "Ready for more?" "Yes," I gasped as Rayon's fingers curved inside me, finding that spot that made stars burst behind my eyes. They moved with coordinated precision this time, like they'd been planning while I slept. Rayon withdrew his fingers, leaving me empty and aching. Before I could protest, Do-hyun was rolling me onto my stomach, pulling my hips up. "On your knees," he ordered. I obeyed, trembling with anticipation. From this position I was completely exposed, vulnerable in ways that should have terrified me but instead made the heat spike higher. Do-hyun's hands gripped my hips, holding me steady. "You look perfect like this, desperate and needy and ours." The possessiveness in his voice sent shivers down my spine. He entered me in one smooth thrust, filling me completely. The angle was different from when Raon had taken me deeper, more intense. I cried out, fingers clutching the sheets. "Too much?" Do-hyun asked, voice strained with the effort of holding still. "Not enough," I managed. He growled, low and satisfied, then started moving. His thrusts were harder than Raon's had been, more demanding. Each one hit deep, building pleasure with ruthless efficiency. Raon appeared in front of me, cock-hard and flushed. "Open your mouth." I did without thinking, and he slid between my lips with a groan. The taste of him was salt and musk and purely alpha. I hollowed my cheeks, taking him as deep as I could while Do-hyun pounded into me from behind. Being filled from both ends was overwhelming. Every sense was saturated with them, their scents, their sounds, their bodies claiming mine from both directions. I felt used in the best possible way, wanted in ways I'd convinced myself I'd never deserve. "Look at you," Do-hyun panted, fingers digging into my hips hard enough to bruise. "Taking us so well, like you were made for this." Rayon's hand threaded through my hair, gentle even as his hips rocked forward. "So perfect, so good for us." The praise, combined with the physical sensation, pushed me higher. Pressure built low in my belly, coiling tighter with each thrust. When Do-hyun reached around to stroke me, I came with a muffled cry around Rayon's cock. They both followed quickly, Do-hyun first, spilling inside me with a guttural sound, then Rayon, finishing in my mouth with my name on his lips. We collapsed together in a tangle of sweaty limbs and racing hearts. For several minutes, no one spoke, just breathing, existing in the aftermath. "Water," Rayon said eventually, extracting himself carefully. "We all need water." He returned with glasses and cool cloths, tending to both of us with gentle efficiency. Do-hyun accepted the care with surprising ease, like they'd done this before. Maybe they had, with each other. The thought created an unexpected pang of jealousy I had no right to feel. We drank in silence, bodies cooling slightly, but the heat wasn't done. I could feel it simmering, waiting to surge again. "How long do your heats usually last?" Do-hyun asked, echoing his earlier question. 2 days, sometimes 3. I met his gaze. "We're maybe halfway through." Something flickered in his expression. Not dismay, more like satisfaction. "Good," he said simply. The hours that followed blurred together. They took turns with me, sometimes separately, sometimes together. Do-hyun's controlled intensity balanced against Rayon's gentle reverence. both of them learning exactly how to take me apart and put me back together. Between the urgent couplings were moments of unexpected tenderness, Rayon feeding me fruit when I was too exhausted to feed myself, Do-hyun massaging cramped muscles with careful precision, both of them holding me when aftershocks made me shake. "You're doing so well," Rayon murmured during one of the quieter moments, lips pressed to my temple. I wasn't doing anything except surviving, but the praise made warmth bloom in my chest anyway. At some point I'd lost all track of time. We ended up tangled together in a position that had me on my back with Rayon between my thighs and Do-hyun's fingers working me open from behind. "Can you take both of us?" Do-hyun asked, voice rough with want. The question should have scared me. Instead, heat and trust made me bold. "Yes." They prepared me carefully, Do-hyun using slick and patience to stretch me while Rayon distracted me with kisses and gentle touches. When they finally positioned themselves, Rayon entering me first, then Do-hyun joining him, the stretch was intense enough to border on pain. "Breathe," Rayon coached, holding completely still. "Just breathe." I did, forcing my body to relax around them. The fullness was overwhelming, right on the edge of too much. But as they started moving in careful coordination, pain transmuted into pleasure so intense I couldn't form coherent thoughts. Being claimed by both of them simultaneously felt like completion, like every broken piece of me was being fused back together through the heat of their bodies and the force of their want. When I came this time, it was with both their names torn from my throat, pleasure whiting out everything except the feeling of them inside me, around me, everywhere. They followed seconds later, and I felt the warmth of them filling me from both directions, marking me inside and out. In the aftermath, lying between them while our breathing slowly evened out, Raon spoke quietly. "Stay with us." My heart lurched. "What?" "After this, after the heat ends, stay." His eyes were earnest, vulnerable. We could build something real, the three of us. I wanted to say yes, wanted it so badly my chest ached. But the calendar was still hidden in my drawer, the pregnancy test still waiting in the bathroom, all the evidence of my original plan, my manipulation, my lies by omission. "I don't know if I can be what you need," I said carefully. "We don't need perfect," Raon insisted. "We just need honest." Honest. The one thing I hadn't really been. "He's scared," Do-hyun said quietly. "Give him time." "Are you scared?" I asked him. "Terrified." He said it like stating a fact, but I'm tired of letting fear make my decisions. The vulnerability in that admission cracked something open inside me. Do-hyun, who'd tied himself to a radiator rather than risk being used, was choosing to trust anyway. My hand drifted unconsciously to my stomach. Was there already life starting there? Had we succeeded? The thought should have brought triumph. Instead, I felt something closer to grief, because if I was pregnant, everything would change. I'd have what I came for, and whatever fragile thing was building between us would shatter under the weight of my deception. "Can we talk about this after?" I whispered. "When my head is clearer?" "After," Rayon agreed, though disappointment flickered across his features. Outside, the storm was finally breaking, rain softening to drizzle, wind dying down. Morning light crept through curtains, gray and weak, but there. Neither of them moved toward the door. Instead, they held me tighter, and I let myself pretend this could last. Let myself believe I deserved it, even knowing I probably didn't. I woke up alone for the first time in what felt like days. The bed was cold where Ron and Do-hyun had been sleeping beside me. My body ached in ways that had nothing to do with heat that had finally, mercifully, broken sometime during the night. I felt hollowed out, wrung dry, but clear-headed for the first time since this started. Clear-headed enough to remember everything I'd done, everything I'd said, every moment I'd let myself believe this could be real. I needed to see if it had worked. Needed to know if biology had done what I'd planned. The pregnancy tests were hidden in the bathroom cabinet behind spare towels. I'd bought 3 different brands, wanting to be absolutely certain when the moment came. My hands shook as I unwrapped the first one. Too early, probably. It had only been, 2 days? 3? Time had lost meaning during the heat, but some Omega bodies showed positive results almost immediately after conception. My research had been thorough. I followed the instructions mechanically, sat on the cold bathroom floor waiting for results, knees pulled to my chest. 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. When I finally looked, 2 lines stared back at me. Faint, but definitely there. Positive. I'd done it. I'd gotten what I came for. So why did it feel like I'd lost everything that mattered? I heard movement in the main room, quiet voices, footsteps. They were awake. I should hide the test, compose myself, figure out what to say. Instead, I just sat there staring at those 2 pink lines, feeling nothing and everything simultaneously. A soft knock on the door. "Hanul?" Rayon's voice, concerned. "You okay in there?" "Fine," I called back, voice steadier than I felt. "Just a minute." I stood on shaking legs, splashed cold water on my face. Caught my reflection in the mirror. I looked wrecked. Marked, changed. I looked like someone who'd been thoroughly claimed. When I opened the door, Raon was waiting right outside. His smile was soft, intimate in a way that made my chest hurt. "Morning," he said, reaching to brush hair from my face. "How do you feel?" "Like a liar. Like someone who doesn't deserve the way you're looking at me." "Sore," I said instead. "But okay." His hand lingered on my cheek, thumb tracing my jaw. "We were thinking about making breakfast. You must be starving." I was. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten anything substantial. "That sounds good." I moved past him toward the main room, trying to act normal, trying to figure out what normal even meant anymore. That's when I saw Do-hyun standing frozen by the bedroom doorway, my calendar in his hands. The calendar I'd hidden in the nightstand drawer. The one with my fertile window marked in red, arrival dates circled, notes about conception probability scrawled in the margins. Our eyes met across the room. I watched realization dawn in his expression, betrayal, hurt, rage, all flickering past in quick succession before his face went completely blank. "Do-hyun?" Rayon's voice behind me, confused. "What's that?" Do-hyun held up the calendar without breaking eye contact with me. "Why don't you ask him?" My mouth went dry. "I can explain." "Explain what?" Rayon moved closer, taking the calendar from his brother. I watched him read, saw the exact moment he understood. His face crumbled. "These dates, these are our arrival dates. You marked when we got here. Raon, and this." His finger traced the red circle. "This is your fertile window. You calculated everything." His voice was getting quieter, which was somehow worse than yelling. "We were part of a plan." "Yes. No point lying now. Yes, I planned it." Do-hyun laughed, sharp and bitter. "I fucking knew it. From the moment we walked in here, I knew something was wrong, but I let myself believe." He stopped, jaw clenching. "Were we ever anything more than breeding stock to you?" The accusation hit like a physical blow. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" Do-hyun stalked toward me, fury radiating off him in waves. "Tell me, did you lock us in on purpose?" "Yes." "Did you know your heat was coming?" "Yes." "Did you plan to seduce us, get pregnant, and disappear?" I couldn't meet his eyes. "Yes." "Jesus Christ." Rayon sank onto the couch, calendar still clutched in his hands. "All of it. Everything we shared, everything you said, it was all part of the plan." "No," I said desperately. "Not all of it. The things I told you about Jay, about being defective, that was real. My feelings." "Your feelings?" Do-hyun's voice was deadly quiet now. "You told us about her, about the Omega who used us. You listened to us bare our souls about being abandoned, and you were planning to do the exact same thing." Shame burned through me, hot and acidic. "I know. I'm sorry." "Sorry?" He moved closer, getting in my face. "You're sorry? We told you what that did to us, how it destroyed our ability to trust anyone, and you looked us in the eyes and decided to replicate that trauma because you wanted a baby." "I didn't know you then," I said weakly. "You were supposed to be strangers, but we're not strangers now." Raon's voice cracked. We shared ourselves with you. We trusted you. I asked you to stay, and you couldn't even give me a straight answer because you were already planning to leave. The pain in his voice was unbearable. I didn't expect to feel, Didn't think you'd what? Do-hyun demanded. Develop a conscience? Feel guilty about using people? My scent was betraying me, flooding the room with distress pheromones I couldn't control. The chemical evidence that I was falling apart even as I tried to maintain composure. Even your scent is a mess, Do-hyun observed coldly. Can't figure out if you're actually upset or if this is just more manipulation. I'm not manipulating you. Everything about this has been manipulation. His control finally snapped. He grabbed a chair, threw it across the room. It shattered against the wall. The concerned caretaker act. The vulnerability. The way you opened up about your trauma, was any of it real? Or was it all calculated to make us care? It was real, I insisted. Tears streaming now. All of it was real. I also had a plan. Both things were true. That doesn't make it better, Ron said quietly. He stood, moved toward his brother. Away from me. That makes it worse. You felt something and chose to use us anyway. The distance between us felt like a chasm. I needed this. I tried to explain. I needed a child before my body gave up completely. You have to understand. We do understand. Do-hyun cut me off. That's the worst part. We understand desperation. We understand doing terrible things to survive. But we told you that. We trusted you with our worst wounds, and you decided yours mattered more. Ron wiped his eyes roughly. Did it work? Are you pregnant? The question hung in the air like poison. I could lie. But what was the point anymore? Yes. The word landed like a bomb. Rayon actually flinched. Do-hyun went very, very still. Congratulations, Do-hyun said flatly. Mission accomplished. You got what you wanted. It's not. Don't. His voice was sharp enough to draw blood. Don't tell us it's not like that. You planned this. You executed it perfectly. You got pregnant. That was always the goal. You can leave now, I whispered, because what else was there to say? The storm's over. The roads should be clear soon. You don't have to stay. You're right, Do-hyun said. We don't. He moved toward the door, started gathering the few belongings they'd scattered around the cabin. Rayon stood frozen for a moment, looking between his brother and me like he couldn't decide which way to break. Raon, Do-hyun called. We're leaving. You're just going to walk away? Raon's voice was thick. From him? From the baby? He walked away from us first. He was always going to walk away. We're just saving him the trouble. Raon looked at me one last time. Were any of the moments real? When you said you'd stay? When you let us? His voice broke. Was any of it real? I wanted to tell him yes. Wanted to explain that somewhere between the plan and the execution, I'd fallen. That I'd meant every word, even the ones I shouldn't have said. But my throat closed up, fear and shame choking off the confession. Rayon took my silence as an answer. That's what I thought. He followed his brother to the door. They gathered their things in heavy silence. When Do-hyun's hand reached for the doorknob, I finally found my voice. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Do-hyun paused without turning around. I hope it was worth it. I hope you get your baby. I hope you're happy alone. The door opened. Cold morning air rushed in. They walked out without looking back. The door closed. I stood there in the empty cabin, hand drifting to my stomach where new life was beginning. I'd won. I had everything I wanted. So why couldn't I stop screaming? I slid down the door the moment it closed, the scream dying in my throat and turning into sobs that shook my entire body. The cabin felt enormous without them. Every surface they'd touched seemed to mock me, the couch where we'd talked, the bed where I couldn't think about it. Couldn't let myself remember the way Raon had looked at me with hope or how Do-hyun's walls had finally cracked open. The pregnancy test sat on the bathroom counter where I'd left it. 2 lines. Positive. Everything I'd worked for. I should have felt triumphant, victorious. Instead, I felt empty in ways that had nothing to do with them leaving. Hours passed. I didn't move from the floor, just sat there staring at nothing, hand pressed against my stomach where a cluster of cells was beginning to divide and grow. Their child. My child. A baby I'd manipulated 2 broken men into giving me. The thought made me sick. Eventually, my body forced me up. I needed water, food, basic survival. Moving through the cabin felt like walking through a graveyard of moments I'd let myself believe in. I forced down toast I couldn't taste, drank water that didn't ease the tightness in my throat, stared at my reflection and barely recognized the person looking back. Marked. Changed. Pregnant. Alone. This was what I'd wanted, wasn't it? A child without the complications of a relationship. No risk of being left again because I'd never let anyone close enough to hurt me, except I had let them close. And they'd hurt me anyway, or maybe I'd hurt myself by pushing them away first. I picked up my phone, stared at the blank screen. I didn't have their numbers, didn't know their last names, didn't know how to find them even if I wanted to. Did I want to? The question sat heavy in my chest. I walked through the cabin, gathering evidence of their presence. Do-hyun's coffee mug, still sitting by the sink, Rayon's jacket, forgotten on a chair. The rope Do-hyun had used to tie himself up, still lying on the floor. Each item felt like an accusation. I sank onto the bed where everything had happened. Their scents were fading but still present, pine and cedar and smoke wrapping around me like ghosts. I buried my face in the pillow Rayon had used and finally let myself fall completely apart. I'd done this. I'd planned every detail, executed it perfectly, and destroyed the first real connection I'd felt since Jay. The realization hit like a physical blow. I'd been so focused on not being abandoned that I'd abandoned them first. Just like the Omega who'd used them before, just like the Alpha who'd left me. I'd become exactly what I'd hated. My phone buzzed. For one wild, desperate moment I thought it might be them. But it was just a reminder prenatal vitamin schedule I'd set up weeks ago, back when this was still just a plan. I stared at the notification. Prenatal care, doctor's appointments, preparing for a baby. All the practical steps I'd need to take, all the things I'd researched and planned for. None of it meant anything if I raised this child on lies and manipulation. What would I tell them when they were old enough to ask about their fathers? That I'd used 2 kind, broken men because I wanted a baby more than I wanted to be a decent person? That their existence started with deception and ended with me driving away everyone who'd tried to care? I thought about Jay, the baby I'd lost, the grief that had shaped every decision since. I'd told myself this was about having a family, about not being alone, about proving I wasn't defective, but maybe I'd just been scared. Scared that if I let myself want more than biology, I'd lose everything again. So I'd taken what I needed and pushed away what I wanted. My hand drifted to my stomach again. "I'm sorry," I whispered to the life growing there. "You deserve better than this, better than me." The thought crystallized into sudden, desperate clarity. I had to fix this. Not for me. For them. For the baby who deserved parents who'd chosen each other, not been trapped by manipulation. I stood abruptly, mind racing. I'd find them. I'd confess everything, the whole truth this time, not the carefully edited version. I'd tell them I'd fallen in love somewhere between the plan and the execution, that every moment had been real even when I'd been lying to myself about it. They probably wouldn't forgive me. Probably wouldn't want anything to do with me beyond co-parenting logistics. But I had to try. I showered quickly, threw on clean clothes, grabbed my keys with shaking hands. I'd start in town, ask around. 2 identical Korean alphas couldn't be that hard to track down. I made it 3 steps out the door before my vision blurred. The world tilted sideways. My knees buckled and I grabbed for the door frame, missed. The ground rushed up to meet me and then there was nothing but darkness. I came back to consciousness slowly. Awareness returning in fragments, soft bed beneath me, familiar ceiling above, voices nearby, urgent and worried. Not eating, probably dehydrated. Stress, should take him to a hospital. Won't make it that far, he needs. I forced my eyes open. The room swam into focus. Ron and Do-hyun stood over me, both their faces tight with concern. Real, genuine worry that they had no reason to feel. "You came back," I whispered, voice raw. "We got 5 miles away and couldn't breathe," Rayon said quietly. "Both of us, at the exact same moment." Do-hyun's jaw was clenched tight. Bond was forming whether we wanted it to or not. We felt you collapse. Understanding hit like lightning. The connection we'd built wasn't just emotional, it was biological. The beginnings of a mate bond, rare and unbreakable. "I was coming to find you," I said. "I was going to tell you the truth. All of it." "The truth?" Do-hyun's voice was cold. "Which version? You've given us so many." "The truth that I fell in love with you." The words came out in a rush, desperate and raw. "Both of you." Somewhere between the manipulation and the heat and the intimacy, I fell. And it terrified me so much I pushed you away before you could leave me first. Silence stretched between us. "You're pregnant," Rayon said finally. "It wasn't a question." "Yes." "With our child." "Yes." Do-hyun ran a hand through his hair, frustration radiating off him. "Do you understand what you've done? You've tied us together permanently. Bond forming, baby coming, we can't walk away now, even if we wanted to." "I know." Tears were streaming down my face again. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to." "Didn't mean to what?" His voice was sharp. "Didn't mean to make us fall for you? Didn't mean to get pregnant? Didn't mean to create a situation where we're bound to someone who used us? I didn't mean to fall in love," I whispered. "I didn't think I was capable of it anymore. I thought I was too broken." Rayon sat carefully on the edge of the bed. "We're all broken, Hanel. That's not an excuse." "I know." Do-hyun was pacing now, barely contained energy. "We can't forgive you. You understand that. What you did, it's going to take time. Maybe years. Maybe never. I understand. But we're not leaving." He stopped, met my eyes directly. "Not because we want to stay, because we can't. The bond won't let us. Our child won't let us. Biology has made this choice for us." The words should have brought relief. Instead, they felt like punishment. "We'll be here," Raon added quietly. "For the baby. For you. Because the bond demands it. But trust? That's gone. You burned it." "I know," I said again. "Because what else was there?" Do-hyun leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "We need to set terms, ground rules for how this works. Okay, no more lies, ever, about anything. Okay. You don't make decisions about the baby without us. We're parents, not sperm donors." "I understand. And you," his voice cracked slightly. "You don't get to play with our feelings anymore. No more manipulation, no more calculating. Just honesty. I promise." Rayon's hand found mine, though his grip was careful, distant. "We'll figure this out, somehow, but it won't be easy." "I don't expect easy," I whispered. Do-hyun's expression was unreadable. "We can't forgive you, but we can't leave you either." The words hung in the air between us, not quite acceptance, not quite rejection, just the complicated, messy truth of 3 broken people bound together by biology and choices, and something that might eventually become love, if I didn't destroy it first. "We need to know something," Do-hyun said, voice carefully controlled. "Do you want us? Or do you want what we gave you?" The question hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. I could have lied, could have said whatever would keep them close, but I'd promised honesty, and for once in my life, I meant it. "I want you." My voice was raw, scraped clean of pretense. "I'm terrified of how much I want you. I don't know how to be loved. I don't know if I'm even capable of it without destroying everything. But I want to learn. With you." Rayon's hand tightened slightly on mine. "That's not good enough." The words hit like ice water. "What?" "Wanting isn't enough." His eyes were red-rimmed but clear. "You wanted a baby too, and look what that made you do. We need more than want. Then what do you need? Do-hyun moved closer, crouching so we were eye level. We need you to choose us, not because you're pregnant, not because the bond is forming, but because you'd rather have us than your carefully controlled isolation. I do choose you. Prove it. His gaze was intense, unrelenting. Tell us something you've never told anyone. Something that scares you more than being alone. My throat closed up. Every instinct screamed to deflect, to hide, to protect the last vulnerable pieces I had left. But they were right. Wanting wasn't enough. I'd wanted before, wanted Jay, wanted the alpha who'd left me, wanted a life that kept slipping through my fingers. Choice was different. Choice meant being brave enough to be seen. I'm scared that I'm fundamentally unlovable, I whispered. Not because I'm defective or broken, but because there's something wrong with my core. Something that makes people leave once they see it clearly. The confession tore out of me, leaving me bleeding and exposed. I pushed you away because I thought if I left first, it would hurt less. But it didn't. Tears were streaming freely now. It hurt more, because for the first time since I lost Jay, I wanted to stay. I wanted to believe I could have this, and that scared me more than anything. Silence stretched between us, heavy and fragile. Then Raun leaned forward, pressed his forehead to mine. You're not unlovable. You're just scared. Aren't they the same thing? No. Do-hyun's voice was softer now. One is truth, one is fear, and fear makes us do terrible things. Like manipulating people into giving me a baby? Like that. Like tying yourself to a radiator because you're convinced everyone will hurt you. Like running 5 miles away from someone you're falling for because staying feels more dangerous than leaving. He paused. We all have our damage, Hainel. Yours just looks different than ours. I looked between them, saw my own brokenness reflected back. 3 people who'd been abandoned, used, left behind trying to figure out if they could build something that wouldn't crumble. So what now? I asked. Now we try, Raun said simply. We probably fail a lot. We definitely hurt each other, but we try anyway. Even though you can't forgive me? Forgiveness isn't a switch, Do-hyun said. It's a process. Right now we're angry and hurt and bound to you by biology we didn't choose. But maybe eventually we'll choose it anyway. The hope in that maybe was the most fragile thing I'd ever held. I want that, I whispered. I want to earn it. Then start now. Raun's hand moved to my stomach, resting over where their child was growing. No more walls, no more plans, just us, figuring this out together. Do-hyun's hand covered his brother's, both of them touching the life we'd created. You're carrying our child. That makes you ours, whether you planned it that way or not. And you're ours too, Raun added quietly. The bond sees to that. But we want you to choose to be ours, not because you have to, but because you want to. I do, I said. I choose you, both of you. Something shifted in Do-hyun's expression, not forgiveness, but maybe the beginning of belief. Then let us claim you properly, he said. Not in heat, not by accident, but as a choice. Understanding flooded through me. The mating bond. Yes. Raun's thumb traced circles on my stomach. If we're doing this, raising a child together, building something real, we do it right, permanently. The marks would be forever. Binding in ways that went beyond biology, beyond choice, into something fundamental and unbreakable. Are you sure? I asked. After everything I did. We're not sure of anything, Do-hyun interrupted. Except that we can't walk away. The bond won't let us, so we might as well commit fully. It wasn't romantic, wasn't the declaration I might have dreamed of, but it was honest, and that mattered more. Okay, I breathed. Claim me. They moved together with coordinated purpose. Raun helped me sit up while Do-hyun positioned himself behind me, both of them surrounding me with solid warmth. This is going to hurt, Do-hyun warned, lips brushing the junction of my neck and shoulder where the mating gland pulsed. I know. Raun tilted my head, exposing my throat. We'll do it together, on 3. 1, Do-hyun counted. 2, Raon whispered. 3. They bit down simultaneously, Do-hyun on the left side of my neck, Raon on the right. The pain was immediate and intense, their canines sinking deep into the glands that would bind us permanently. But underneath the pain was something else, a rush of sensation that felt like coming home, like being found, like every broken piece clicking into place. The bond snapped into existence between us, not just forming anymore, but complete. I could feel them suddenly, their emotions bleeding into mine. Do-hyun's carefully controlled pain and cautious hope, Raon's gentler hurt mixed with fierce protectiveness. And underneath it all, love. Complicated and messy and not quite forgiveness, but definitely, unmistakably love. When they pulled back, blood marked their lips. My neck throbbed with twin marks that would scar permanently visible proof of belonging. Your turn, Raon said, tilting his head to expose his throat. My hands shook as I leaned forward. I'd never marked anyone before, never claimed someone as mine. But they were offering themselves despite everything, and that deserved equal courage. I bit down on Raon's neck first, tasting copper and cedar in him, felt him gasp beneath me, the bond solidifying further. Then Do-hyun, his mark deeper, more claiming. Pine and smoke and something uniquely his flooding my senses. When I pulled back, all three of us were breathing hard, marked and bound and permanently changed. So this is it, I said quietly. We're bonded. This is it, Do-hyun confirmed. No take-backs, no running. We're stuck with each other. For better or worse, Raon added. Attempting a smile, I touched my neck, feeling the raised marks already beginning to form. What do we do now? Now we live. Do-hyun's hand found mine. We prepare for the baby. We learn to trust again. We figure out how three broken people can maybe make one functional family. It won't be easy, Raon warned. Nothing worth having is, I said. We sat there in the aftermath, marked and bound and terrified. Three people who'd been abandoned and used and broken, trying to build something that wouldn't crumble under the weight of their damage. It wasn't perfect. Wasn't the fairy tale ending I'd stopped believing in years ago. But it was real, honest, ours. And maybe that was enough. I'm sorry, I said again. For everything. For the plan, the manipulation, the lies. I'm sorry. We know, Do-hyun said. And someday maybe we'll fully forgive you. But right now we're just trying to move forward. Together, Raon emphasized, hands on my stomach. All of us. I covered their hands with mine, feeling the life growing beneath. A baby conceived in deception, but maybe, possibly, able to grow up in something real. Together, I echoed. The bond hummed between us, new and raw and unsteady, but there, permanent, unbreakable. Outside, the storm had fully cleared. Sunlight broke through clouds for the first time in days, painting the cabin in gold. A new beginning. Not the one I'd planned, but maybe the one I'd needed all along. What do we tell them, I asked quietly, when they're old enough to understand, about how we started? Do-hyun considered. The truth, that we made mistakes, that love doesn't always start clean, that sometimes the worst decisions lead to the best things, Raon added. I looked at both of them, these two alphas I'd trapped and fallen for and hurt and been claimed by. And that love can grow from broken ground, I finished. They both smiled, small and fragile but genuine. Yeah, Do-hyun said, that. And for the first time in my life, I believed I deserved this. Believed I deserved them. All of it. What happens when desperation meets destiny? When three broken souls collide in ways none of them planned? If this story pulled at your heart, left you breathless, or made you believe in second chances, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video if you felt every twist, every confession, every moment of raw vulnerability. Subscribe for more emotionally charged Omegaverse stories that explore the messy, complicated side of love where healing isn't instant and forgiveness is earned. Comment below. Did Haenel deserve forgiveness? Were the twins right to stay? What would you do in their situation? Your voice matters. This community thrives on your thoughts, your passion,